Hello friends, welcome back to Enlace de Familias Storytime. The story we'll be reading today is Curious George Blast Off by Margaret and H.A. Ray. Curious George blasts off. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. One day, George got an important letter. George's friend, the man with the yellow hat, helped him read it. George, he said, Professor Weissman needs your help for an experiment. He's built a rocket ship to travel into space. It is too small for a person to ride in, but it is just the right size for a clever monkey. George thought and thought. He had never been to space before, but he was very curious about it. Do you want to go into space, George? You will have to be very brave. George was glad to help. George and his friend set out for the museum at once to talk to Professor and meet the other scientists. We are so happy you are willing to help us, George. Professor Weissman, let's gather everything you need for your flight. They got the smallest size spacesuit for George, along with a space helmet, an oxygen tank, emergency rockets, and a parachute. They helped him put everything on and taught him how to use it. When everything was ready, the truck drove up with a special screen mounted on it to watch the flight. Everyone got on it, and they went off to the launching site. They checked all the controls of the spaceship, especially the lever that opened the door. George tried it too. He was very excited to go to space. He was excited to come home too. Finally, the great moment had come. George knew just what to do. He went aboard the spaceship and waved goodbye. Then, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! The ship rose faster and higher until the scientists could no longer see it in the sky. But on the screen, they saw George clearly all the time. Now the moment had come for George to bail out of the ship. Professor Weissman flashed a signal. Everyone watched the screen. George did not move. Why did he pull the lever? In a few seconds, it would be too late. The ship would be lost in outer space with George in it. Everyone watching on the ground waited and waited. They were nervous, especially George's friend, the man with the yellow hat. Then, slowly, George began to move the screen. He reached for a lever, and the door opened at last. Out of the blue, an open parachute came floating down to Earth. Hurrah! George was on his way back home. The truck raced to the spot where he would land. What a welcome for George. Professor Weissman hung a big golden medal around his neck. Because, he said, you are the first astronaut to fly into space and come back to Earth. On the medal it said, to George, the first space monkey. The newspaper man took George's picture and everybody shouted and cheered. The man in the yellow hat, most of all. I'm proud of you, George, he said. I guess the whole world is proud of you today. It was the happiest day in George's life. The end. Thank you for joining us once again.